July 2026 is mathematically the most congested, high-stakes anime season we have seen since the peak of the late 90s golden age. We are looking at over 15 heavy-hitting properties releasing within a 4-week window. For context, the average viewer has roughly 10 hours of disposable entertainment time a week. If you try to watch everything this season, the math literally doesn't work. You have to optimize. To do that, we are going to calculate the adaptation pacing, the frame density, and the narrative stakes for the entire July lineup. This is your ultimate survival guide to the summer 2026 anime bloodbath. Let's start with the titans. July 25th, Bleach 1000-Year Blood War: The Calamity. We are entering the endgame. If you analyze the manga-to-screen adaptation rate, Studio Pierrot has been burning through roughly 4.5 chapters per episode. But here is the critical data point. Tite Kubo's original manga ending was notoriously rushed due to his health. Pierrot literally does not have enough manga panels to fill a full court without expanding the fights. This means we are getting the Snyder Cut of Bleach. We are talking heavily expanded, anime original sequences supervised directly by Kubo. The animation budget is heavily allocated to the final clashes. Watch for the frame rate to jump to cinematic 24 frames per second on ones during the Bunkai activations. If you're a DC fan, this is the equivalent of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Reality is collapsing, power scales are broken, and the visual compositing is going to be absurd.
On July 6th, the godfather of modern isekai returns. Mushoku Tensei Season 3. Let's talk production stability. Studio Bind was forged for the sole purpose of adapting this specific light novel. Season 2 saw a slight dip in Sakuga density because key animators were rotated out, but the data shows the original heavy hitters have returned for Season 3. Why? Because of the narrative stakes. This season is scheduled for 27 episodes, split across 2 cores, and it adapts the Eris training arc, the Asura Kingdom political fallout, and most importantly, Turning Point 4. In terms of light novel pacing, Turning Point 4 holds the highest reader retention spike in the entire franchise. It is a psychological gut punch that flips the genre upside down. The story structure here is a masterclass in slow burn payoff. But what if you want pure, unadulterated cinematic art? July 4th brings Jaadugar, a witch in Mongolia. This is the hidden monster of the season. Directed by Naoko Yamada, the visionary behind A Silent Voice, and produced by Science SARU. Science SARU does not play by traditional industry rules. Instead of standard 12-frame limited animation, they use flash-based vector interpolation and rotoscoping. The result is hyperfluid movement that feels almost alien compared to standard anime. Set in the 13th century Mongol Empire, it follows a captive girl named Sitara plotting a revenge campaign. It is launching with a 1-hour special. The cultural aesthetic and historical accuracy are meticulously calculated. Do not skip this. It is the frontrunner for Anime of the Year. Now, remember what I said earlier about Science SARU dropping 2 shows? Exactly 72 hours after Jaadugar, they are dropping The Ghost in the Shell on July 7th. This is an unprecedented production pipeline. While Jaadugar is fluid and artistic, their take on Ghost in the Shell is violent, sharp, and kinetic. This is not the slow, philosophical melancholy of the 1995 Oshi film. This is a hyper-faithful adaptation of Masamune Shirow's original manga. It's loud, it's aggressive, and the combat geometry is incredibly precise. Think of it like the transition from a brooding Batman movie to the high-octane pacing of a John Wick film, but with cyborgs. The very next day, on July 5th, Kyoto Animation enters the arena with Sparks of Tomorrow. KyoAni's business model is completely different from the rest of the industry. They do everything in-house. Because they pay salaried wages instead of freelance per-cut rates, their background compositing and lighting calculations are the most advanced in the world. Set in an alternate 20th century Kyoto where steam power dominates and electricity is a myth, it follows 2 kids trying to trigger a technological revolution. The focal lengths, the simulated camera lenses, the reflections in the characters' eyes, it is visually flawless. As a Netflix global exclusive, the binge retention graph on this is going to be a vertical line.
Now let's pivot to the action junkies.
If you read Marvel's Daredevil or DC's Deathstroke, you appreciate tactical, grounded combat where intellect and technique matter more than screaming power-ups. July has 3 specific titles that cater to this exact demographic. July 6th brings the second core of Demons of the Shadow Realm, created by Hiromu Arakawa, the mastermind behind Fullmetal Alchemist, and animated by Studio Bones. Arakawa is a genius at establishing hard magic systems. The power scaling here operates on strict rules and equivalent exchange mechanics. It is highly calculated combat. Studio Bones has dedicated a significant portion of their action director budget to ensuring the hand-to-hand choreography blends seamlessly with the supernatural demon summons. It's sharp, consistent, and narrative-driven action.
Hitting earlier on July 4th is Black Torch. Jiro, a ninja who can talk to animals, merges with a supernatural feline. This is pure, distilled shonen momentum. 100 Studio is leaning heavily into thick, comic book-style inking. If you love the harsh shadows of a Mike Mignola comic or the visceral impact of Jujutsu Kaisen, this is for you. The kinetic energy relies heavily on martial arts fundamentals mixed with bursts of supernatural speed. And we cannot forget the Elusive Samurai Season 2. Cloverworks absolutely snapped in Season 1, treating evasion and running away as a high-tier combat art. The framing of the action sequences uses exaggerated perspective and dynamic camera swoops that make simply dodging a blade look like an ultimate attack. Based on the manga pacing, Season 2 escalates the tactical warfare, meaning Cloverworks is going to have to composite massive battlefield engagements without losing the fluidity of the one-on-one evasions. Speaking of tactical warfare, July 8th finally brings Saga of Tanya the Evil Season 2. It has been years. Studio Nut is back. This is military strategy meets grimdark fantasy. The aerial combat calculations here are fascinating because they rely on real-world dogfighting physics combined with magical trajectory calculations. The sound design alone, the heavy mechanical crunch of the rifles, is a masterclass in audio engineering. Tanya is heading back to the front lines, and the political stakes are higher than ever. And for the absolute peak of absurd, hyper-masculine combat math, BAKI-DOU, the invincible samurai, drops this season. The anatomy in Baki defies human biology, but the fighting logic, explaining the exact Newton force of a punch breaking the sound barrier, is strangely compelling. TMS Entertainment is adapting the Musashi Miyamoto cloning arc. It is violent, it is bizarre, and it has an unbreakable cult following. At this point, the sheer volume of action and trauma is going to cause viewer fatigue. Your brain mathematically requires serotonin to reset. This is where the palate cleansers come in.
First up, The 100 Girlfriends Season 3. This show should not work. A harem with a mathematically expanding cast should collapse under its own weight, but the author uses the massive roster to construct intricate, rapid-fire comedic punchlines. It is a masterclass in screen time management and character economy. On July 5th, we get You and I Are Polar Opposites Season 2. Direct response dopamine. The pacing of the relationship completely ignores the standard will they, won't they anime trope that drags on for 100 chapters. It's fast, highly relatable, and the color palette is specifically designed to evoke a warm, nostalgic response. And on July 4th, Magilumiere Magical Girls Inc. Season 2. This is a brilliant deconstruction of the magical girl genre, treating it as a corporate tech startup. The magic operates on coding and engineering logic. It's smart, satirical, and the animation by JC Staff perfectly captures the blend of mundane office life and high-octane monster extermination. Add to that Chainsmoker Cat on July 3rd by Bibury Animation Studios, which is exactly what it sounds like, a bizarre, moody, atmospheric comedy that will probably dominate TikTok with out-of-context clips. And for standard fantasy comfort food, Skeleton Knight in Another World Season 2 returns on July 4th after a 4-year break, bringing back ARC's overpowered but incredibly wholesome adventure mechanics. But I saved the biggest disruption for last, because just as the seasonal anime are hitting their mid-season stride, an atomic bomb is dropping on the streaming platforms.
On July 28th, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, the first movie in the final trilogy, is finally hitting OTT platforms on Crunchyroll globally. It already made $271 million at the box office. Studio Ufatable's use of 3D CGI background rendering combined with 2D character composite is the gold standard of the industry. The Infinity Castle itself is a constantly shifting, non-Euclidean geometric nightmare. When this drops on July 28th, it is going to completely hijack the social media algorithm. Every other show releasing that week will see a mathematical dip in engagement. The July 2026 season is a logistical masterpiece. You have